Hello and welcome to this month's Chatterbooks. We are now going to be in April, the time of renewal, the time of fun, and of course, the time of sunshine. Hurrah! I know, I don't know about you, but I spent most of this winter feeling cold and dreary. And now it's the spring and everything seems to be so much better. Now, talking about so much better, I want to share with you a new theme for the month, and that is a theme of legends. Legends happens to be one of my favourite things to dip into, and if you don't know what a legend is, basically a legend is a story that tradition holds that it is actually history, but it can't be proven. So with this in mind, I thought I'd share with you some of my favourite British legends, because we all know about the Greek myths and the Roman myths and all that kind of thing, but it's nice to have some legends from our home ground, especially as one of them is associated with Somerset. I'm fairly sure you could probably guess who that's going to be. So I thought I'd start with the first one, and that kind of encompasses Ireland and Scotland, and that is the Giant's Causeway. So this legend, the Giant's Causeway, as you can see from the picture, it looks absolutely amazing, is all about two giants. So the first one is called Finn McCool, and he's from Ireland. The other is called, and I'm going to say his name wrong, but I believe it's called Benandonna. We're going to call him Ben for short, so I don't mispronounce it. So Ben is threatening Ireland, and Finn didn't like that. So Finn decided that he was going to take pieces of the countryside from Ireland and chuck it into the sea to create a pathway to Ben in Scotland. Now, once Finn gets to Ben in Scotland, he realizes he's outmatched, because Ben is like massive, like big, massive, 10 million times bigger than Finn. So Finn heads right back to Ireland, and his wife very quick-wittedly hides him as a baby. I know, seriously, that's what he does. And when Ben comes over from Scotland to Ireland to confront Finn, he sees that Finn as a baby, and he's like, well, if the babies are that big, then what are the adults like? He hightails it back to Scotland, and in doing this, he kind of tears up the causeways, so there's only a little bit left. And that, my friends, is how the Giant's Causeway came to being. Another legend I wanted to share with you, of course, is the tale of Robin Hood. Robin Hood has to be one of those where you either love him or you hate him. And Robin Hood, if you didn't know who he was in the 11th century. At least that's what people think it is. But as it's a legend, no one can prove that it's true. So with Robin Hood, he basically steals from the rich to give to the poor, because at this time, King John was, well, kind of king of England, because his brother Richard was over in the Holy Lands creating a crusade, well, taking part in a crusade. And the legend goes that John was basically taxing people, and the Sheriff of Nottingham was using this to his advantage. And Robin Hood didn't really like that, so he took matters into his own hands, and thus the legend is born about robbing from the rich to give from the poor. There are so many stories about Robin and his men that is well worth having a look to see if you can find a book on it in our library catalogue. So I want to share with you my favourite legend, and that is the legend of King Arthur. Now, there isn't just one story of King Arthur, and many of those stories are, of course, legends. We don't know if it's real or not. If he is real, then he might date back to the 5th or 6th century, which is a very, very long time ago. Imagine like 1200 years, give or take a couple of hundred years. And in this story, there's a whole legend of different stories about King Arthur and about him defending the country against the enemy and rebellions at home. It features also his Knights of the Round Table. That is something that is very famous in this country, where the Round Table is something that you want to be part of, because they are the best of the best of the best, so to speak. They were chivalrous, they were knights. They had stories that I thoroughly enjoyed. In fact, one of my favourite stories about King Arthur is that of the Sword and the Stone. I really like knights, and I really like the fact that this sword, so many people were trying to pull this sword out of the stone. I've got my visual aid here. So beforehand, so many people were trying to pull it out, because of course, whoever could pull the sword out of the stone was going to be the king. And I love this because it would have to be someone who was super special, okay, or super strong to pull this sword out of the stone. And after many people were pulling it and pulling it and pulling it, Arthur pulled it as softly out of the sheath as I have just done now with the sheath here. And I love the fact that King Arthur didn't disappoint when he became the king. There are so many stories about him and his knights. There are some good ones, there are some bad ones, and they show the variety of life that I absolutely love. So there was one thing I did forget to mention when I've been talking about the myth, the legend that is King Arthur. And that, of course, is that he is quite often associated with Somerset, especially with the Glastonbury area and Glastonbury Tor. So if you live near Glastonbury or Glastonbury Tor, you will be able to see some of the legends that surround King Arthur. Of course, he has legends throughout this country, but I think he's close to my heart because he has so many associated legends both here and in Cornwall. So this leads me on to what we are going to be doing for our task this month. And it should be a really easy one and a lot of fun. What I would like you to do is draw me a picture from your favourite legend. It doesn't have to be anything I've mentioned today, so if you've got a favourite Asian-inspired legend or Roman, Greek, Norse, any kind of legend, as long as it's a real legend, if that makes sense, not a made-up one, which is kind of funny because legends are kind of made up. Do draw me your favourite scene. So draw it, and if you would like to enter our competition, the form is attached either to this video or you can jump to your local library and you can draw your favourite legend on that form, and if you give it in, you'll be entered into a competition which is going to end on May the 10th. So you should have a lot of time to be able to draw your favourite legend for me. I hope you enjoyed listening to my little episode all about the different legends for today. And I hope you go and explore the world of legends because there are some fantastic, enthralling stories that are so worth reading about. Don't forget to check out your local library to find out what kind of mythological books we have and have a read and find out something new. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.